All right, let's jump right into a question that's, well, kind of huge. When you read a book or you watch a movie, where does its meaning really come from? Is it all from the person who created it, or could it be coming from, you know, you?
I mean, think about your absolute favorite story. You have a really clear idea of what it means, right? What it's all about. But is that the only meaning? Is it even the right one?
For a long, long time, the answer to that question was actually pretty simple. If you wanted to understand a piece of art, you just had to figure out what the artist was thinking. You'd look at their life, their letters, what they said in interviews, and that was it. That was the key to unlocking the one true meaning.
And then, boom. In 1967, a French critic named Roland Barthes drops this short little essay that just turns everything completely on its head. It had this super dramatic title, and the idea behind it was just as radical, that to truly understand a text, to set it free, the author had to, well, metaphorically die.
So let's get into this first part. To really get why Barth's idea was such a bombshell, you first have to understand the world he was pushing back against, a world he saw as being ruled by the tyranny of the author. Yeah, this traditional view basically treated the creator like an author god. Seriously, they were the genius, the single origin point for every last drop of meaning. Critics would dig through an author's entire life, looking for clues in their biography to explain every single choice. Whatever the author said they meant, well, that was the final word. End of story.
But Barthes looked at that and said, hang on a second. He argued that this whole approach doesn't actually reveal more about a text, it just shuts it down. As he put it so perfectly, giving a text an author imposes a limit on it. It just locks it into one single, final meaning and slams the door on every other possibility.
Okay, so what was this game-changing idea? His essay, The Death of the Author, was basically a full frontal assault on that traditional way of thinking. It offered a totally new way to look at art, and it became this foundational piece of what we now call postmodern thought. So, at its core, The Death of the Author is a call to just disconnect the work from the person who made it. Barth is arguing that meaning isn't some little package the author neatly places inside the text for us to find. No. Meaning is actually produced, fresh and new, every single time a reader picks it up and engages with it. Now, this is where it gets really clever. Barth says we need to stop thinking of the creator as an author, with all that baggage of genius and authority. Instead, he says, just think of them as a scriptor, basically a scribe. This scriptor isn't some genius who came before the text. They're actually born at the exact same moment as the text. So they don't get to explain the work, they just produce it. And this leads us to his most powerful, most unforgettable line. For the reader to finally take their rightful place, for the reader to become the true space where all the text's meanings can come together, the author, as that single ultimate authority, has to be removed from the picture. It's this incredible transfer of power. So, if the author isn't the center of the universe anymore, how does a text even hold together? Well, this brings us to one of Barth's most famous metaphors. For him, a text isn't just a straight line of words delivering one message. It's something way more complex and honestly, way more beautiful. He described a text as a tissue of quotations. Just picture it like a piece of fabric woven together from countless threads. And here's the thing, none of these threads are truly new. They're all pulled from the language, the stories, and the ideas that are already floating around in our culture. The author doesn't invent the threads, they just weave them together into a new pattern. And to prove his point, Barthes kicks off his essay with this absolutely brilliant example from a story by Balzac called Sarrasine. So in the story, the narrator is describing a castrato singer that the main character thinks is a woman, and he goes into all this elaborate detail about their femininity. Right then, Barthes just stops the analysis and throws down a challenge to the reader. Who is actually speaking here? I mean, is it Balzac, the guy, sharing his personal ideas about women? Is it some kind of universal, timeless truth? Maybe it's just a product of romantic era psychology. Whose voice is this, really? And here's the punchline. Barth's answer is, we can never know for sure. And that is the entire point. For him, the very act of writing destroys any single original voice. A text becomes this multidimensional space. You can't just decipher it with one key, like looking up the author's biography. The only thing you can do is disentangle all those different threads as the reader. Now, as you can imagine, an idea this huge didn't just land quietly. It kicked off a massive debate among thinkers that, honestly, is still going on today.
Barth wasn't the only one with a take on the role of the author. And this slide gives you a great little snapshot of that whole conversation. You had folks like the new critics who kind of saw this coming. They talked about the intentional fallacy, which is basically the mistake of thinking an author's intention is all that matters. But even they still thought there was one correct reading to be found. Then you get Michel Foucault, who argued that, okay, maybe the person of the author is dead, but the idea of the author, what he called the author function, is still super important for how we organize and classify books. And of course, you've got people like Sean Burke, who straight up argued against Barth, fighting for the author's big comeback. So why should any of us care about some dense literary theory from the 60s? Well, because whether you realize it or not, the ghost of this idea has totally shaped how we think, how we learn, and even how we create things today. Just take school, for example. The death of the author has had a massive influence on teaching. It helped shift the whole focus in the classroom away from just finding the one right answer that was supposedly hidden in the author's brain. Instead, it's all about empowering students to build their own interpretations, to think critically, and to have their own personal response. It turns teachers from being fact-givers into guides. And check out this fascinating modern twist. The whole idea of killing the single, all-powerful author has, ironically, helped inspire brand new ways of creating things. Think about stuff like Wikipedia or open source software, or any project where tons of people come together to make one collective work. The author isn't one person anymore, it's the crowd. Which brings us right back to today and to our final question for you. In our world of fan fiction, where fans literally rewrite their favorite stories, of remixes, where art is constantly being taken apart and put back together, and now of AI art, where the creator might just be a line of code or a simple prompt. Is the author really dead? Or has authorship just evolved into something weirder, more collaborative, and way more interesting than Barthes could have ever imagined?